Hey, welcome to chapter 2. Recognizing the emotionally immature parents. So, how will you know if your parents were emotionally immature when they were raising you up? And there are several ways of knowing how if your parents were emotionally immature. I will give you a few characteristics of what emotional immaturity looks like in parents, and then you can use that as a marker of defining, of looking at your parents and seeing if they were emotionally mature. In this exercise, you will need to set aside your feelings towards your parents, whether they are feelings of love or feelings of loyalty or anger or whatever you have, whatever emotions you have towards your parents. And we're just going to be looking at them objectively, because that's exactly what I did. When I was reading this book, I put aside my emotional feelings towards my parents and looked at them objectively. And objectively means rationally. It means that I was not attaching any emotion to whatever was coming up. So I was just looking at them and seeing them for who they are, not idolizing them or demonizing them, not thinking that my parents are gods or thinking that they are demons, just seeing them as the human beings that they were. And remember, human beings are flawed, human beings have problems, human beings have good sides and bad sides. Nobody is purely evil, nobody is purely good. We all have different sides, yeah? So look at your parents objectively and accurately as we go through this list that was provided by Dr. Lindsay in the book Recognizing the Emotionally Immature Parents. These are some of the characteristics. Number 1, your parents were rigid and single-minded. They're the kind of people who wanted to have their way no matter what. So your parents are people who, if they say something, it's either you do it or you're going to get punished, or something is going to happen to you if you don't do what they want you to do. It does not matter whether there's a different perspective look at it. Doesn't matter if there's a different way of doing something. Doesn't matter what options lie ahead. For them, it was always their way or the highway. Yeah. So they're the people who must have they wanted to have their way all through in everything. If that sounds like your parents, that's emotional immaturity. Your parents have or had low stress tolerance, so they denied things, they blamed other people, and they overreacted to things. So if something came up, whatever it was, maybe it's something that you did or something that happened in their lives, at their place of work, in their relationship between the two of them, if you are raised in a household with two parents, if something happened, for them they would either deny that it happened or deny the emotions that came up with it, or they would blame you or blame themselves or blame someone else. They never took responsibility, or they will overreact. Again, this could be your parents doing this even up to now. Maybe even now your parents still blame, deny, overreact, or they used to do that in the past. Maybe they become emotionally aware with time. But if this sounds like your parent, a parent who can never take responsibility, that is a parent who is emotionally mature. So look at your parent and assess. Your parents make emotional decisions, what feels best right now, and those decisions are very subjective. It is never, they don't have a proper way of being. They have this subjectivity where they go with the mood. So if they are feeling happy, they make decisions based on that happiness. If they are angry, they make decisions based on that anger. They're never making rational decisions. They're always making emotional decisions. That is emotional immaturity. And maybe you can even see it in yourself if that's something that you do. They're the kind of people who will do what feels good, not what is correct, what is good, what is right. They will do what feels right or what feels okay to do at the moment. They don't see long term. That is an emotionally immature parent. Emotionally immature parents have a low tolerance for differences. They don't see the possibility that other people could be different in any way. They don't see the possibility that you could be different to them from them in any way. So maybe your parents like staying indoors and just chilling over the weekend, but for you, on the weekends, you want to go outside and maybe do some outdoor activities. You want to go hiking, maybe you want to travel a bit, maybe you want to go to a restaurant and eat, you want to do things. But for them, weekends are meant to be experienced indoors. They stay indoors, they stay in the house. They don't do activities outside. So for them, they can't tolerate that difference. They're the people who will try to make you think that doing all those things is wrong or bad or immature or something that is not what they would want. So they'll be like, why would you keep going to restaurants on weekends to eat out? You're wasting money. You could be using that money to do this or the other, or you could give that money to people who are suffering. They don't see that difference, that you would want to do other things other than what they are used to. Yeah. If you want to go outdoor hiking, they'll tell you how dangerous it is outside, or how it is a waste of time, or how you could get hurt, or how you could be doing other things like staying indoors and reading, studying, preparing for your exams. You know, they don't see any differences, and they don't see differences, and they do not allow for them even if they see them. So if they see a difference in you, they're like, no. If it's even its physical appearance, maybe for them, they want this particular way of dressing, of being, of doing, but then you choose different, they're like, no, you can't be like that, you can't wear like, you can't dress like that, you can't act like that, you can do. They want to control what you become because they don't tolerate differences. That is emotional immaturity. Because remember, we are all created different. Just because they're your parents and just because you have some genetic connection to them does not mean that you are them. You're not a replica of them. You're not you know how people say mini me when they're referring to their children. You might be their mini me, but you're not them. You are an individual with your own personality, and individual differences affect all of us. So you can't be a mini me to them in everything. And that applies to you as well. You should be able to tolerate differences in other people. Never think that your way is the only right way to do things and to be. So yeah, that's something. I think I've spoken a lot about that. Your parents were insecure, defensive, and self-absorbed. So your parents could not again take any blame or take any responsibility for issues. They defended themselves. You brought up an issue, you'd say like, maybe if you bring up an issue like, what mom or dad, what you did was offensive to me, I felt hurt because of what you did. They'd be like, you see how you're speaking to me, I never did anything like that. I was just trying to correct you because I'm your parents. You know, they will come back at you and it's like they are fighting you. And you're just like, I was telling you how what you did or said affected me. I'm not blaming you. I am just telling you, trying to explain to you how it makes me feel when you do this or the other to me. So they become defensive. They are also very self-absorbed. They're only concerned about themselves. They don't see other people and other people's issues. They only see themselves, and they feel that the world revolves around them, or the world should revolve around them. That is an emotionally mature parent. Again, as with the self-absorption, they want to be the center of attention. If things are not about them, they get angry, they get defensive, they get bored, they shut down conversations. So if you're talking about something, they will always want to bring it back to themselves. If you're talking about, did you hear this and this that happened to so and so, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. It also happened to me one time. Or they will always find a way to turn the story about them, because they can't stand having conversations or experiences where they are not the center of attention. That is an emotionally mature parent. They are not curious about other people's experiences. So even if they see something, or you tell them something about something, or about someone or an experience, they're not curious about it. They don't want to follow up. They don't want to engage in that conversation. They will find a way to shut it down or to redirect the conversation to become about them. So they're not curious about you and your experiences, ever. It has to be about them. That is an emotionally mature parent. Emotionally immature parents shut down any potentially vulnerable conversations. So if you're having a conversation that could become emotional pretty fast, or vulnerable, they will shut down that conversation very quickly. So you'll be telling them, because remember what we said in chapter 1, that emotionally immature parents are afraid of their own emotions and their own emotional experiences. So if they are afraid of their own emotions, then they cannot be there for you emotionally, because they can't even handle their own emotions. How will they handle your emotions? So if you come up with a conversation that could be potentially very vulnerable for them, or at some point it might bring a lot of vulnerability, a lot of emotional exposure, they will shut down that conversation very fast. If you're talking about experiences of, let's say, grief, and for them, they have not dealt with their own grief, instead of sitting there and discussing and talking about it and the emotional experience that comes with it, they'll find a way to shut down that conversation very fast. They'll be like, we're familiar. watu ufiwa all the time, you will be fine, you know. They'll tell you you'll be fine, don't worry, calm down, you're overreacting, because they know if they don't throw out those conversation shut downers, this conversation become emotional, because at some point you'll find that you will have to open up your heart to talk about something that is painful. And so that opening up of the heart is something that they are afraid of, and that's why they cannot do it with you. So these are people who will shut down your vulnerable conversations very, very fast. There's this thing that emotionally immature parents do, which is called role reversal. The parent expects the child to be their confidant. So you'll find that these are parents who, if they're having financial problems, they'll come and talk to you as their child. So you find that maybe when you were young, your parents would come and tell you how, one of your parents would be telling you how the other parent is wasting money. Look at your father or your mother. They've been wasting money. They can't even budget. They don't know how to take care of the household. They keep drinking all the money. Your parent is this or the other. They'll tell you very, 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 I don't call them intimate, but I want to call them very, very deep things about your other parent. You know, they want you to be their confidant. They want you to be like their BFF. And BFF is best friends forever for those who are not initiated. Yeah, they want you to be their confidant. They want you they want to tell you their secrets. When they're having marital problems, they want to tell you about their marital problems. Where they're having sexual difficulties, they want to tell you about their sexual difficulties. When they are having problems at work, they want to tell you about their problems at work. But then it's not like how a parent would just talk to a child so that they can bring this issue to the awareness of the child. Like you would tell your child so that your child is not living in a place where they are uncertain. You know, like when, let's say, a parent loses a job, it's okay for the parent to talk to the children about losing the job, because they know that the children will be worried when they see their parent no longer goes to work. When money seems to be tight, the children will be worried. So it's okay for a parent to speak to their children about financial difficulties. But it's not okay for the parent to start telling the child about how the other parent is the reason why they're in financial difficulties. Because then they're bad-mouthing their spouse to their child. And they're trying to make their child take sides in a way. So they want you to become their confidant. They don't see you as their child. They see you as their best friend. They see you as their go-to person when they have emotional problems. That is emotional immaturity, a big marker. So be very keen when you notice that your parents do this, or they used to do this, or even you do that. That is to your children. That is emotional immaturity. Emotionally immature parents lack empathy and emotional sensitivity. They are blind to how they make you feel. Oh my gosh, this is a big one. So you'll find that emotionally immature parents will say things that are so hurtful, but then it's like they are unaware of how hurtful their words are to you. It's emotionally mature parents who will tell you how you should lose weight because you look like this or the other. Emotionally mature parents will tell you gain weight because you look so skinny and there's a problem with you for looking so skinny. Emotionally mature parents will tell you how you're not smart, you're dumb because you're failing exams. But they don't understand that those words can be hurtful, because there's nothing that builds you up out of that conversation. When somebody starts telling you how you look like and attacking you for your looks or for your intelligence, but they are not giving you any tangible feedback that you can use to make yourself better, then they're just tearing you down. And so emotionally mature parents will be the first people to tear you down. They'll be the first people to tell you how bad you're doing, how things are not looking good for you, how you are a problem. They are not your cheerleader, and they're not aware. And even as they are not your cheerleader, they are not aware of how their words and their actions are hurting you. So this is like a two-pronged issue. They are hurting you, and they are not aware of how they are hurting you. So it's just like a huge problem. Emotionally immature parents are very blind to how their words and their actions hurt you. So be very keen to look into how your parents act in your presence and how they behave towards you. And of course, that is a lack of empathy. As we said, if you don't know how you hurt other people, you're not empathetic. If you don't know how your presence in the world affects other people, then you're lacking in empathy because you can't put yourself in other people's shoes. Emotionally immature parents are inconsistent and contradictory. They are difficult to understand. Because of this inconsistency and this contradiction, you can never really know when they are how to act in their presence. So you'll find that some days they will reward you for doing something. They will and that reward could be a physical reward, or it could be an emotional reward, but then some days they will shut down. So you might come home with good grades and you're like, hi, I got really nice grades, we did the exam and I passed, I got B plus, I'm doing well. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, congratulations my child. And then tomorrow you'll come with results from another test and I got a B plus, and you tell them how you got a B plus, and they're like, why are you failing so much? What is going on? You are failing. You are not doing well. What is going on with school? And you're like, but yesterday you were okay with my B plus. How come today my B plus is a problem? But you see, they're also not telling you how the B plus is a problem. They're just telling you that it's a bad thing and you're the bad person for having that B plus. So these emotionally immature parents are very inconsistent, and even in their punishments and in their rewards, they're very inconsistent. Some days you will do something and they will congratulate you, and some days you'll do something and they will punish you. So it might be even something small like saying hello to guests when they come home, and on some days they will expect you to show up and say hi to guests when they come home. But then on some other days you will show up and say hi and they'll be like, what are you doing here? Go back to your room or get lost, and then you're not sure, are my parents okay with me showing up and saying hi, or are they not okay with me showing up and saying hi? But if you bring it up, they'll shut it down. They'll be like, you're a very stubborn child, auskizi maneno, kwa nini unanijibisha? I am your parent, you should not be jibisha in me, So you end up having to constantly monitor them and assess them so that you know how to behave in their presence. You can never be yourself, because being yourself, every time you're yourself, you're not sure how they're going to react. And so you end up developing this persona that you can put up like a facade so that you can present it to them in the hopes that one day they will see you for who you are, and one day they will accept you. But for now, you're going to put up an act and be this kind of child. You're going to be the child who is not a troublemaker, the child who always listens, the child who is always getting the best grades. But even when you're struggling, you won't talk about that you're struggling, because you know that your struggle can never be accepted in their presence, because you know they can never hold space for you to be yourself. So you always pretend to be something that you're not. That is a marker of emotionally immature parents. Emotionally immature parents are people who have not developed a self-awareness, and so what they do is suppress their natural instincts. If they are angry, they don't know how to deal with their anger because they're not self-aware enough to know even when they're angry. They don't know when they're happy. They don't know a lot about themselves. So they don't know how to deal with themselves when emotions come up in them. And so they have to suppress their their natural instincts. They have to pretend, because the way they're making you pretend is the way they have to pretend for themselves, for them to be in relationship with other people. They can never be themselves because they don't know who they are. If you're not self-aware, you don't know who you are. If you don't know who you are, then you cannot be yourself in the presence of other people, right? So that's emotionally mature parents. Emotionally mature parents fear their own feelings, especially if those feelings have previously been met with judgment, punishment, shame, or ridicule. So these parents, remember, again, we are not trying to blame parents for being emotionally immature. Remember that these parents were brought up by people. They were brought up by their own parents. And maybe their own parents were emotionally immature. And so you'll find that maybe during your parents' upbringing, their emotional needs were met with judgments by their parents who were emotionally immature, or those emotional needs were met with punishment, or they were shamed for having those feelings, or they were ridiculed for having those feelings. And so, because they didn't learn how to handle emotions, they become adults who are emotionally immature. And so you're born into that emotional immaturity of theirs. And so they are also unable to hold space for you to express your feelings. So they will meet your own emotional needs with judgment, punishment, shame, and ridicule, the way their emotional needs were met with shame, judgment, punishment, and ridicule by their parents. So because they have not sat down and learned who they are and learned how to take care of themselves, how to develop emotional maturity, they can never be emotionally mature with you. So that is something to look out for when you're looking at emotionally immature parents. Emotionally immature parents are dismissive and skeptical, especially of achievements. So emotionally mature parents will come with good grades and they'll be like, you'll be like, oh my gosh, we did an exam, I got an A, I'm so happy. And they'll be like, you could have done better. And you're like, I got an A. Like, what is better than an A? You know, you can't really tell what they mean that you could have done better. Or you will get whatever grade you get and they're like, actually, that's not even a big deal. Our neighbor's child got a better grade than yours. You should be embarrassed for getting such a low grade. Whatever the grade was, whether it's a B+, whether it's a C+, whatever it is, they will tell you how your achievement is not a big deal. You will achieve something, whatever it is, and they will show you that it is not a big deal. They will never celebrate with you in your achievements because they don't know how to be in the presence of joy. Remember, if you can't handle one type of emotion, you will effectively struggle with handling other types of emotions. So if your emotionally immature parents cannot handle negative emotions, they'll also have trouble handling positive emotions because remember, these are opposite sides of the coin. And so if they don't know how to handle joy, they don't know how to handle success and achievement and celebration because they're thinking something bad will happen at some point. So you might as well be prepared for this something bad. So how do I prepare for something bad? By diminishing the good things, by minimizing my joy so that disappointment is less. So that when the time comes, I don't struggle with the disappointment because I did not celebrate too early, I did not celebrate too much. So emotionally mature parents will be very skeptical of your success. They'll be very dismissive of your achievements. They will not know how to celebrate with you. Last but definitely not least, emotionally immature parents do this thing called there are things in psychology called cognitive distortions. And some of the cognitive distortions that are very common are black and white thinking. And black and white thinking is where you think you're under the impression that there exists only two options. Things are either good or bad. Things are either working well or working bad. People are either your ride or your dies. There's nothing in between. You don't see the possibility that there are shades of gray at any point in your life. So emotionally mature parents will tell you either you're a good child or you're a bad child. You did something good or you did something bad. They will never see any shades of gray in between. They will never understand any emotional needs that maybe emotional suffering. They don't understand emotional suffering. They either see your strengths or your weaknesses. They don't see anything in between. Those are emotionally mature parents. They will intellectualize everything. Everything is an intellectual pursuit. And try to make if you bring an emotional issue up, when you bring up an emotional issue, they'll try to make it a rational thing. They don't understand why you're crying because you're in pain. They're like, you're a big girl, you should not be crying. You're a big boy, men don't cry, you should not be crying. You know, they try to make things, they try to get out of the personal space where emotions could be touched. They try to avoid. So they will always try to intellectualize everything. Things are either black and white. They will apply these cognitive distortions at any point they can get so that they never have to get in touch with emotions because emotions can be heavy. And so if today you're seated there and you're thinking, this sounds like a lot like my parents, I will invite you to be calm and to take heart in that you're not alone. And there are very many parents who are like that out there. It's not because they are bad people. Remember, again, as you said, we are not demonizing our parents. We are just looking at them from a very rational point of view. We are trying to see them objectively for who they are. Because if we are able to see people for who they are, then we are able to learn how to deal with them, how to handle them, how to be in their presence. So if you're wondering how it feels like to be in a relationship with an emotionally immature parent, then you might want to stick around for chapter 3 because that's where we'll discuss how it feels like to have a relationship with an emotionally immature parent. You'll be able to see now that you know that your parent is emotionally immature, how does it feel to be in that relationship with them? And that's why you'll be able to see that you're not alone, in that these things happen, and it is up to us to do better now that we know better. So stick around for part 3 of how it feels like to have a relationship with an emotionally mature parent. And if you have any questions so far, or anything to say, any experience to share about your emotionally mature parent, or something you've seen in yourself as an emotionally immature parent, you can share it in the comment section below, and let's keep this discussion going. So see you in chapter 3.